Now, the right time with Bomani Jones on ESPN Radio.
And ESPNradio.com.
Looks kind of like they're over. I don't want to be that guy, but it does look kind of like it's over. I predicted that Golden State would win in 5 games, which, means we're taking, it might even be 4. Now, of course, nobody wants to celebrate the injury to Kyrie Irving, and it was a really, really, really good game. But it almost feels as though talking about the game at this point doesn't, why, right? We like to talk about these games and go back and talk about what we enjoyed and what were the big moments and everything else. But that's always typically with an eye toward the rest of the series when we do this in the playoffs. Hey, man, nothing that happens in that game really matters if Kyrie Irving isn't playing, and Kyrie Irving is not playing. Now, there's a lot to unpack and to discuss from what happened with Kyrie, but let's just talk about this purely in terms of basketball because, hey, the Cavs won 2 games against the Hawks without Kyrie, so maybe, just maybe, they'll be able to figure out some sort of magic trick and they'll get it going in this series. Yeah, but, right? Here's what we saw in that game. We saw Kyrie Irving play over 40 minutes in that game. We had a whole lot of people who raised questions to David Blatt, especially considering that Kyrie got hurt on a non-contact injury, as to whether or not Blatt should have had Kyrie in the game for so long. Did you happen to see what happened when Kyrie wasn't in the game? I know you guys love Delly. Everybody loves Delly. Gritty, scrappy Delly. None of that grit or scrap getting that ball into the front court and getting it to LeBron James before there were 10 seconds left in the shot clock. They can't put him out there. If he's going to be the point guard, this is going to be a wrap. And they don't really have anybody else that you can trust to bring the ball over half court. Let's go take a look at our last box score, shall we? We go take a look at the last box score, and I just like to do this just simply so you can have a handle on who the other options are. Because that's the boat that they're in right now. Who are the other options? And the other options, if it ain't going to be Dellavedova that's playing point guard for you, are you trying to put Iman Shumpert out there as your point guard? Because if you put Iman Shumpert out there as your point guard, that's J.R. Oh, no. Oh, boy, that's a lot going on there. A backcourt of Iman Shumpert and J.R. Smith is not what the doctor ordered. It simply isn't. After that, man, Cavs have 5 guys get that good DNP-CD. Perkins, Haywood, Joe Harris, Sean Marion, and Mike Miller. Those aren't point guards. Kyrie played 44 minutes. I don't know what else Blatt was supposed to do in that situation. If you tell Blatt that Kyrie can play, and Kyrie says that he can play, and Delly's over there sitting next to you on the bench, then that's that. Understand this. Your man Delly played 9 minutes. And look, I understand all the skepticism of single game plus minus stats, and I myself am skeptical of single game plus minus stats. But Dellavedova played for 9 minutes and had a plus minus of -13. And you talk about why did David Blatt have Kyrie out there? They had to have Kyrie out there. They sat Kyrie for 2 games against the Hawks because you could sit Kyrie for 2 games against the Hawks. There ain't no sitting Kyrie against the Warriors. And now Kyrie himself has had to sit. It looks like a wrap. Now, what's going to be funny, though, is that now that it looks like a wrap and there's no Kyrie, are you guys really going to be this dedicated to blaming LeBron James? And see, I asked that for this reason. Dan Levitard and I had this discussion, and, LeBron wrote that letter, and everybody seemed to love him again and everything else, and then last series, you guys were calling him, infallible winner guy, right? Remember, and everybody was picking on me because the Cavs lost to the Hawks, because I picked the Hawks, because I picked the Hawks, because I picked the Hawks. Damn it, I picked the Hawks. Anyway, after I picked the Hawks, all you guys were like, you can't bet against LeBron. You can't bet against LeBron. LeBron's a winner. LeBron's a winner. Okay, cool. We get to this series. Now, LeBron put up 44, had 8 boards and 6 assists in that game against the Warriors. Had the ball, tie game, last possession, ISO left. He went for a jumper. He didn't make the jumper. Then I got to go on TV today and answer the question as to whether or not LeBron James choked. Wow, we're doing that again. I had no idea that we were doing that again. Just a couple weeks ago, we were talking about how preposterous it would be for David Blatt to call a side out of bounds play in such a situation that didn't involve giving the ball to LeBron. Now y'all want to make LeBron into a choker again. Now what's funny about that is that is the exact type of shot that another infallible winner guy takes all the time, and that is Kobe Bryant. That is also, by the way, a shot that infallible winner guy Kobe Bryant misses all the time, and never does anybody say that Kobe Bryant choked when he misses that shot. It's all a little bit weird, folks. It's all a little bit weird. But without Kyrie, so basically it's just going to be ball out of control for LeBron. Like, what are they going to do? Especially considering the fact that your man Blatt's been out there running the Mike Brown offense. You know what that offense is. The Mike Brown offense. I like to call it the Bel Air Academy offense. You know the Bel Air Academy offense. Pass the ball to Will. That's what you do. And that seemed to be basically what the Cavs are doing. Pass the ball to Will and let Will figure everything out from there. We ain't really going to run no whole lot of action. We might give him a ball screen if he needs one. But, yeah, we're just going to pass the ball to Will. They'll let Will do whatever. So Will wants to go to the post. Well, you know, we've got two big men out here who can't do anything on the perimeter. Oh, well, Will wants to go to the post. There'll be no spacing. Oh, well, Will doesn't go to the post. Will's going to go to the post. That's basically what they ran all game long. Pass the ball to Will. Pass the ball to Will. Pass the ball to Will. And pass the ball to Will was working fairly effectively, but it helps if you got somebody that you might have to worry about Will passing the ball to. And when J.R. Smith isn't making shots, they don't have that person at all. Kyrie, good gracious. I believe with Kyrie, we'll talk about the injury and everything else, but the play that's going to get forgotten as that game ended the way it did is the fact that Steph Curry undressed Kyrie on that drive late in regulation, just blew right by him. I have no idea how Kyrie found it in him to make up the space and get the block shot. Now, there's going to be some people to argue that Kyrie fouled him. I don't know how Kyrie even did that. Now, granted, it was like a public service announcement for what my basketball coach in high school used to say about finger rolling, how it takes inches off of your shot and it makes it easier for a short guy to block it. But the fact that he could even pull that off was so amazing. Like, given the things that we know now, that was incredible. Incredible what Kyrie managed to pull off. Like, that was such a game. It was a really, really, really good game. And now Kyrie Irving is out for months with a fractured kneecap, meaning none of what happened in that game matters. None. Cleveland's done. I don't think they had that much going for them with a one-legged Kyrie, but with no Kyrie legs, they are donezo. The only positive side effect of them being donezo is, well, JR going to go wild. How many shots do you think JR is going to put up in the next game if there's no Kyrie? Like, you know, not only is JR saying to himself, they're going to need me to make these shots, LeBron is telling him, you're going to need to make those shots. Did you see the way your man Mozgov was playing last night, trying to dunk on people at every turn and everything else? I guarantee you, LeBron told Mozgov, hey, Mozzie, we're going to need you tonight. Come play your A game. And he tried to give the hurt to Bogut. Problem is, man, you give that speech to J.R. Smith. J.R. Smith like, baby, I was born ready. Man, J.R. Smith going to go 5 for 25.
Bomani.
Hey, man, I don't know if you saw the Brian Windhorst. Brian Windhorst wrote a story about just kind of how somber the locker room was after everything went down with Kyrie. What seems to be clear about what's going on here with Kyrie, that I don't think, like, we haven't talked that much about it now, but we will later. There's a rift between Kyrie Irving and his agent and father, who are two separate people, just to be clear, and the Cavaliers' medical staff. That matters, and that matters a lot. Look, a lot of things have gone bad with NBA teams when a star player stops trusting the medical staff. Perhaps the most famous example of this is Bill Walton in Portland. That was the beginning of the end of that relationship. Now, our guy, Brian Windhorst, wrote this. He says, and I quote, "There's been some tension between these two sides for weeks now. Irving's father and Wexler, who's the agent, sources said, have been preaching caution with Irving in this knee issue. Naturally, they're focused on his long-term health and have concern that playing on a weakened knee, what the Cavs have said publicly was a bad case of tendinitis, could put him at risk of greater injury. Going to see Andrews was part of the entire group's efforts to get a full handle on what Irving was facing and get independent advice on the situation. Of course, on the other side, the Cavs want Irving to play as long as he's not seriously hurt. As Irving was limping through the start of the conference finals against the Hawks, it was easy to identify some mild friction. As Irving was preparing to get a second opinion, there was a sense he was being challenged to play through it. And, dude, the thing about pro sports is they're always going to challenge you to play through it. Like, that's just kind of a life thing. It ain't that easy. Play through it. It hurts. The game is still here. Like, that's how that's always going to work. There's always going to be a measure of peer pressure that comes down on a player to play if you can play, play if you can play, play if you can play. And for that reason, there's always an incentive for the team to try to tell a player he's not quite as hurt as badly as he may have thought or as it may have seemed. This is just one of the ugly parts of how the sausage is made. The team doctor works for the team. The player's body is the only one that the player has. There's always going to be a tension that winds up there. The question is, what did the Cavs medical staff know, or how hard did they work to find out worst case scenario? That's the one that I wonder, because they kept calling it a bad case of tendinitis, a bad case of tendinitis, a bad case of tendinitis. Like, you remember when they told John Wall that his wrist was just sprained, and then they found out, oh, by the way, you've actually got 5 fractures in your wrist? It's just tendinitis. It's just tendinitis. Then he winds up with a fractured kneecap. Now, we don't know what kind of fracture it was that he wound up with the kneecap, but I had surgery when I was in high school that I had in part because I had terrible tendinitis that just wouldn't go away, so they had to do something to work on that. Let me tell you something. I can totally see a team telling a guy with a fractured kneecap that is just tendinitis. Now, Irving said that what he felt when he hit the ground in that game was something different. He said it didn't feel like it had felt before. We don't know what the answers are in these situations. What I want to present to you, though, in bringing this up about Kyrie, because, again, trusting the medical staff is going to matter a lot as this relationship continues. But when you see what's happened with Kyrie and all the things that they're trying to figure out and all the things that are kind of like, hey, how'd that happen? Were you one of those people who got on Derrick Rose for taking his precious time to come back? Because Derrick Rose works for a team whose medical staff has earned a certain measure of skepticism. And Derrick Rose and his people looked around in that and said, nah, we're going to take care of this. We'll let you know when he's going to come back and play. Well, look what happened to Kyrie when he waited for somebody to tell him when he was going to stop playing. It matters, man. It matters. This matters a great deal. Like, there's a terrible, terrible, terrible thing. I don't want to say terrible. It's just an inherent conflict that comes from team doctors. That's what it's got to be. So remember this. It said Kyrie went down to see Dr. James Andrew and get his knee checked out. Now, there was one NFL player who pretty clearly intimated, though not definitely, that he questions just how independent Dr. James Andrews is. And I don't know what relationship Dr. Andrews has with the Cavs or what they talked to him about or any of that. I don't know. I just know that James Andrews was the team doctor who was on the sideline as Mike Shanahan ran Robert Griffin's knees into nubs. Like, that was him. That's the same guy. All right? That's the same guy that told you that Griffin looked so fantastic and he hadn't looked great since. Remember that? He's the same dude. Look, man, the doctor game is messed up. And there's no way around it because of the conflict that's going to be created. That Hippocratic oath goes out the window once somebody writes you a check. This dude ain't working for the state hospital. You know? He's working for these millionaires. And Kyrie's dealing with the team doctor at first. They go through all of this. I'm telling you, let's see how this goes, because as it progresses down the line, the most important thing that's going to come out of this is not about whether Kyrie's injury prone or whether he's brittle or anything else. It's going to be about whether or not Kyrie Irving trusts the medical staff of the Cleveland Cavaliers. And they better do what they got to do to earn that trust, because this guy is there. They got him locked in. But if he doesn't want to be there anymore, and NBA players do this very often, he can make it hell and make you get rid of him. It can be done. And if he doesn't want to be there anymore because he doesn't trust the medical staff, who in the world would any of us be to blame?
Bomani.
Joining us next, he is the illustrious host of His and Hers. Catch that at noon on ESPN2. Co-host, rather. He's also the co-host of the His and Hers podcast. And he's always here to talk to us on Friday night because he's married with kids. His name is Michael Smith. Mike, what's going on?
What's up, man?
Okay, call it, man. See, there's kids right there.
I got my Riley Curry thing going on. Because I'm home with her by myself. I'm home with the 2-year-old by myself. My wife took the oldest 2 out of town, so she won't go to sleep. I'm sitting up here watching Mickey Mouse Clubhouse, so I beg your pardon. She will not let me have peace right now.
You're totally helpless, too, aren't you?
Dude, well, I wouldn't say helpless because, look, I got no shame in my game. I'll give her all the sweets and candy she wants. I don't care. I just want peace. She can watch all the TV she want to watch. If her mama was here, it'd be a different story. She'd probably be in the bed. But now it's not because she's not. I'm just trying to get by. I'm just surviving in advance. And as long as I get her to tomorrow, healthy and whole, my mission is accomplished.
You're not the one letting her run around the restaurant, are you? Because every time I see Riley Curry at the press conference, I'm like, wow, that's so cute. But that's the kid running around the restaurant.
No, I'm pretty good in the street. I'm pretty good in public in terms of controlling them. I mean, I got a kick out of Riley because I relate it because, Maya is 2 years old, same kid. You know what I mean? They want attention. They want to do what they want when they want. But, if I'm out in public at a restaurant, I don't impose on, other people being out and, doing their thing. At a certain point, though, kids are going to be kids and people. Even if they don't have kids, it's nice if they could understand that, but I can't expect them to understand, and it's not right for me to impose on them. That said, not that you had me on to talk about this, I wasn't sitting up there tripping, even as somebody who's been on deadline and been in those press conferences, I wasn't tripping about the idea that it was unprofessional. I was like, whatever, it was cute.
Yeah, I was kind of in between on that one. Is that I didn't buy the story about being on deadline. I also think, my man, if you ain't got no control over your children, you need to leave that to somebody who can, in fact, do it. We're talking to Michael Smith of His and Hers on ESPN2. Also check the podcast at the iTunes store. Are the Cavs done, man?
Yeah, man, they done. And I'm up there having all kinds of trying to have wishful thinking going on, even going into it. I mean, I had Warriors in 6 out of respect. Not because, the Cavs are...
Mike, that wasn't out of respect. It was out of fear. I was in the same boat. That you say they were going to win in 5.
Fear of betting against LeBron?
No, it was my fear. Not just fear against LeBron, but you say they're going to win in 5. You say it's going to be dominant. You know what I mean? If it goes the other way, people call you stupid.
No, absolutely. But no, I mean, it's probably going to be 5 now. I mean, if the Cavs get a game without Kyrie, that's going to be pretty impressive in and of itself, man. Because, I mean, the game, look, the first quarter, it was weird, man. The Warriors, I wouldn't even call it rust. It just looked like straight-up nerves. They were just like, wow, we in the finals, and they were down 14 quick because LeBron was like, well, I've been here before. I'm good. Man, as soon as things settled down, throughout the whole game, I mean, we know the Warriors didn't play their best. I mean, you could just tell. I mean, the difference in the teams. You got Mo Spates coming off the bench, coming off an injury reserve or the injury list, giving you 8 points. That stuff adds up, man. With Livingston and Mo Spates and all these people scoring on you, and you got Dellavedova out there not giving you anything. So it should be over pretty quickly, which is disappointing.
Yeah, I thought the Warriors were taking heat checks before they had made a shot. They were so nervous. The shot they were taking early, they looked like heat checks. Right.
I'm like, yo, man. I was like, why is Klay Thompson think he's Steph? Just stop taking these shots. It was crazy. But once the second unit came in, it kind of kept it at about a 10-point lead. It kind of settled down. But that Kyrie injury, man, I was hoping maybe he missed a game or, maybe he'd find a way to come back. I guess we all knew the way he walked off and slammed his jersey down, and as despondent as he was in the locker room, that it wasn't going to be good. But he had fractured kneecap. How do we go from tendonitis to fractured kneecap?
Well, we're talking to Michael Smith of His and Hers on ESPN2. Also check the podcast at the iTunes store. And you went to where I was kind of going next. You've covered the NFL more time. You spent more time doing that than anything else. But the inherent conflict of the term team doctor is something I was talking about last segment that I feel like a lot of our listeners thought I was just kind of making up. But from your observation, how strong is that conflict in the way that athletes perceive it?
Oh, well, that's the key. Well, that's the key right there. See, that last part, the way that athletes perceive it, because if you're employed by the team, first of all, when you're the player in particular, you know that the team, more often than not, especially in a situation like this when the stakes are this high. Now, I'm not saying that the Cavs did this. I'm saying generally speaking, if you're a player, just from my, exposure to them, you're going to assume that you have to look out for your own well-being more than the team is going to look out for your own well-being. And if a guy that's employed by the organization is giving you a certain diagnosis or a certain prognosis, you got to take that within that context. He's employed by the organization. I mean, didn't he go see James Andrews? Didn't he go get a second opinion? Why we see all these guys get second opinions and independent opinions if there isn't some inherent conflict? So, I don't know what the Cavs situation was in particular, but you said it the exact right way. From a player's perspective, you always got to wonder, hey, are they doing what's best for me or telling me what I need to hear in order to go out to play, or are they looking out for my career long term? And that's why we read these reports from, I think it was Brian Windhorst, right, talking about the dad and the agent had issues with how it's being handled.
And this is one of those things that can carry over with the relationship that a player has with the team. I think Bill Walton was the most famous example. It ruined his time in Portland, basically. Oh,
yeah, absolutely. There's no question about it. I mean, they got a long-term commitment with this guy. And, if just reading some of the descriptions of the locker room last night, if this is something where they feel like, he was put out there, put at risk, and this was unnecessary, and they played him too much. And look, going back on the 44 minutes in Game 1, I don't know what David Blatt was supposed to do. I mean, if he's cleared and he's available, he's been off for 8 days, and as good as Kyrie looked throughout the game, I don't know how you manage his minutes, wondering, well, is his kneecap going to crack if he makes a certain move at 30 minutes versus 35? I don't know. But all that matters, to your point, is what the player and his inner circle thinks going forward.
All right, last question from Michael Smith. If the Cavs don't win this, are we going to find a way to blame LeBron?
I won't, and I know you won't either. I won't. No. I mean, the only one, if you're going to blame LeBron for anyone in his career, is Dallas. If you're going to blame him for anyone. I mean, he melted down in those fourth quarters. There's no doubt about it. And that's no disrespect to Dallas and the job Rick Carlisle did. And it wasn't all on LeBron, but that was the one where he didn't show up. So when they lose this, let's stop saying if. When they lose this series, and he's 2-4 in the finals, 07 last year and this one, they just ran up against better teams. And I don't know how you can hold that against him.
All right, Michael Smith, check him out. ESPN2, His and Hers at noon, and also the replay at 4 o'clock. You can also catch the His and Hers podcast, Michael Smith and Jamel Hill. That is at the iTunes store. My man, I greatly appreciate you spending Friday night with us.
All right, man. Thanks for having me.
Geico presents Strange Savings Stories. Astronomers detected an interstellar transmission. It stated, Geico, 15 minutes could save you 15% or more. The implications were staggering. Was the cosmos telling us we could all save hundreds on car insurance with Geico? Or did their radar merely pick up a signal from the nearby Rufus and Clyde's morning show? We may never know.
Geico, 15 minutes could save you 15% or more on car insurance.
Bomani.
And now we'll talk about the defending WNBA champions, the Phoenix Mercury. You may not have known they were the defending WNBA champions, and I'll be honest with you, I didn't know it until about 10 minutes ago myself. I found out that they were the defending champions when I found out that they were celebrating their championship tonight, and they're celebrating their championship tonight, and everyone who comes to the arena will receive a T-shirt that says, and I quote, "Glory is ours," which is just a little bit awkward because, Brittany Griner plays for the Mercury, and she is currently married to a woman named Glory, with whom there had been a little bit of drama. You may have heard there was a domestic violence case from a few weeks ago. And then yesterday, Glory Johnson put out a statement that said that she would be having a child, and she was so excited about having a child with someone that she loved, and that someone that she loved would be Brittany Griner, who announced today that she wanted an annulment. Yes. Brittany Griner says that she wants an annulment. Now, look, man, generally speaking, I ain't really so concerned with people's business and what goes on in their homes and marriages, but at the same time, I'm not going to lie to you. I like to gossip every now and then. Like, I know you guys like to gossip every now and then, too, and I know that because we talked about Tiger Woods for like a year and a half after he got in trouble. People like to gossip every now and then. It's fine. It's just not very often that it's conducive to me, like, actually doing the gossiping at my job. For example, I've been wanting to gossip about Russell Wilson and Sierra on the radio for so long, but I couldn't find a professional way to do it. Now I'm just using this story right here to backdoor my way into that gossip. And you know the gossip I want to say about that? How in the world is it that Russell Wilson's divorce lawyer is not doing billboard advertisements with him, Russell Wilson, and Sierra together talking about this could be you? Russell Wilson came into the league married. Russell Wilson, somewhere along the way, decided to get divorced. Hey, none of my business, and I'm not going to say anything bad about the woman that he was married to or his situation or anything else. But if I told you that if you called this one divorce lawyer and after that there's a chance you might wind up dating Sierra, I got a feeling a whole lot of y'all would be trying to see what that man was talking about. Like, hey, if you're going to get divorced, that right there is how you do it. Right? I've been wanting to talk about that for the longest. Or Sierra been dealing with your man Future for a while. Now she with Russell. It just screams out to me that her friends were like, you need to get you a good man. You quit messing with them thugs. You need to get you a nice man. Man, they'll treat you right and take care of you. So she went from dealing with Future to kicking it with Russell Wilson, catching rides with the police. That's right. I saw it on Instagram. Russell Wilson was like, thanks to these guys for giving us a ride. And it was some police officers. I'll be damned. I got a ride from a police officer one time, and they made me sit in the back and then dropped me off at a hotel and said, these two guys need a room. Yeah. Anyway, so now we wind up here with the Brittany Griner and Glory Johnson situation. And this is all I'm saying, all right? I didn't ask to know any of this stuff, right? I didn't ask to know if they were getting married. I didn't ask to know if they were dating. I didn't ask to know if they were having a child. I didn't ask to know any of these things. I have been minding my own business, as I was raised to do. But once you start putting out press releases about all of this stuff, I personally need some answers, because I'm trying to think of a situation that has ever shifted as quickly as there's a press release on Thursday saying that we're having a baby, and then there's a press release on Friday saying, actually, I want an annulment, and then after that, your girl Glory told TMZ that she was blindsided by this whole thing and did not see it coming. Had no idea this is going to happen. So you're going to be sitting at home tonight watching SportsCenter, and they're going to say something about Brittany Griner getting this annulment. Like, it's going to come up. Brittany Griner has filed for an annulment. Okay? That's going to come up. And then after that comes up, somebody's going to wrap that up by saying, yesterday, Glory Johnson said that she was expecting a child and would be taking the WNBA season off. And then we're just going to leave it at that, and you're all going to be sitting at your television like, whoa, wait, what? Huh? How does that work? Like, how in the world did we get here? So are we all just going to sit here in disbelief? Like, wait. Something here doesn't add up. Like, is that just what we're going to do? Because if this were a straight couple, we'd be out here asking all the questions. We'd be nosy as hell. However, all of y'all are afraid that y'all are going to say the wrong thing. Therefore, we just going to say that and we're going to let it go. Oh, no, 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 no. Not me. I need answers, and I need answers right now because I can't think of the last time I heard about a situation that left me more utterly confused than this situation has me. All right? Now, before, it should be noted, before, when we first had need to talk about this, it was awkward because it was this whole idea of domestic violence and like the direction that domestic violence goes in, and the fact that we are very good at putting domestic violence in the context of men and women. And basically what we're saying in the context of men and women is that domestic violence is bad because it's not a fair fight. Like, that's what it comes down to. It's not a fair fight. That's the problem that we have. It's from a standpoint of intimidation and, bullying somebody that's helpless. So then when it turns out to be two women, even if one of them's 6'8", we don't have any idea what to do because now all our context is completely ruined. Like, I totally understood why that was awkward. This isn't awkward. This is just confusing. It's just confusing. Now, if you want to get to the part that could be seen as awkward in this, it's the whole idea that if Glory Johnson announced that she was pregnant yesterday, what was the state of affairs when she was pregnant and they were fighting? I think that is a fair and legitimate question to ask. I think that is a fair and legitimate question that would be asked of a man in the same situation, right? I personally don't want to get into that right now because I don't have the exploratory tools or the crystal ball that would then give me the answer to what that is. I just want some kind of answer. That's all I want. That's it. I just want one person to answer one very simple question. What in the hell is going on here? So Brittany Griner put out a statement through our Kate Fagan where she basically said that she had apprehension about them getting married. Before they got married, she had all these different concerns, but she just decided that she was going to go ahead and she was going to go through it anyway, and she went through with it, and then we wind up in the situation that we're in right now. Now, I noticed something yesterday, that when the statement came out about Glory Johnson having this baby, I don't remember there being much from Brittany Griner in that situation. I don't remember her having any quotes on it at all, and I can't imagine this. Can you imagine if you're Brittany Griner and you're already like, hey, I don't know how I feel about this situation. It could go either way. And then next thing you know, you read a press release talking about we pregnant. Woo! Go ahead and put that paperwork in there, lawyer. I got to go. I have got to get out of here. Peace. Thanks, but no thanks. That's a whole whirlwind that they got going on there. And let me tell you about the part of the whirlwind that makes this interesting or makes this different than anything else. We've seen people in athletic competition who had beef with one another before. Like, we've seen that. I don't think we've ever had two people on the same, field of competition who have been married before and now aren't married anymore. I feel like it's okay to circle your calendar for when Glory Johnson comes back, because that's going to be a very interesting trip to the lane, her first game.
Bomani.
We're going to have Chris Haynes of the Northeast Ohio Media Group join us at 10:30 to talk about what the situation is with Kyrie Irving and his injured knee and all things surrounding that. It did kind of feel before that happened that the Cavaliers had a chance to win the series. It did seem that way. Now, granted, that was only one game, and there's no guarantee that still having Kyrie meant that they were going to win it. And let's all be honest. In all likelihood, that was the game they were going to win in Oakland. That was probably it. If they were going to win a game, I don't think anybody would put money on the Cavaliers winning 2 games in Oakland. If they were going to win a game in Oakland, that was going to be the game in Oakland that they were going to win. And there's no guarantee that they were going to get that one. I came out of that game being overwhelmed by the weaknesses of the Cavs and looking at Golden State and being like, wow, they could play a lot better. The first half, Golden State looked so nervous. They were taking heat checks early early, like the first 3 shots that the Warriors took looked like heat checks. Steph took a heat check. Klay Thompson took a heat check. And then they pulled it back together because the thing about Golden State is there's no big lead when you play against them. There's just not. There's no big lead. We saw that in the series against New Orleans, and of course it's still New Orleans. We saw that in the games against Houston. They can narrow a lead so fast because they shoot three-pointers so well that even a bad night for them, man, all it's going to take is a good 4-possession roll, and they're straight. But the thing I noticed in that series that I found to be very interesting, we've talked about this for a while, or at least I've talked about it for a while, which is my inability to grasp or understand or get what it is that makes it, like, what makes you think a guy's going to be a good NBA head coach? Right? What makes a guy a good NBA head coach? And when Steve Kerr got this job in Golden State, especially to the tune of $5 million, I had a lot of questions. And I thought those questions were all fair. And I still think that those questions were fair, but they've worked out a situation in Golden State that's allowed him to be successful. They put him around the right assistant coaches. He set things up the right way in conjunction with management. Like, they've got that thing figured out. David Blatt's the dude that's like the king of Europe, right? David Blatt's the guy with all the coaching experience. And I thought it was interesting that coming into the finals, David Blatt admitted that the learning curve has been higher in the NBA than he expected it to be. Apparently, he had to get to the NBA finals to feel confident enough to admit that level of vulnerability, to assume that level of vulnerability. But, hey, he got there. Hey, man, what did David Blatt do to make the Cavaliers better in Game 1? Because you can point to things strategically that Golden State did. Some good, some bad, but you can point to them. You can point to the way they decided to guard LeBron James. You can look at the things they did off the ball when it came to guarding LeBron James. The decision to go small late. All of those things. Like, I can point to things and say, this is what the Golden State coaching staff, this is what Steve Kerr was doing to try to keep their team in the game. What were you getting out of Blatt? Because I just didn't see it. And I'm not saying the man can't coach. I just haven't seen the actual coaching take place. So when people, there's still some people in Cleveland, my God, they still got their hopes up about the Cavs winning this. Let me find something for you right fast that I saw on the internet. I'm telling you, boy, you are not ready for this. You ready to hear this? In Cleveland, I know you out there listening. You know what I mean? And I love you guys. I swear on everything. I really do. I love you guys. But somebody put this on Facebook, and look, it's just one man, but it's bouncing around, and I see people from Cleveland who are posting this. Yeah, that's right. And the guy says, hashtag slay the dragon. Or somebody said hashtag slay the dragon about this. You ready? It started with the big three and ends with the chosen one. This is how the curse must die. LeBron must slay the dragon alone. He had help getting here and now must seal the deal. Heroes are remembered, but legends never die. Giovanni Castelli, why are you doing that to yourself, man? Like, why are you doing that? Why are you doing that to you? Oh, okay, fine. You want to believe that? Okay. You're right. Let's just let you have that. Let's just say you're right. LeBron's got to slay the dragon by himself. He can't slay the dragon by himself. The whole reason he left Cleveland at one time was that he couldn't slay the dragon by himself. The whole reason he came back to Cleveland is because he couldn't slay the dragon by himself. The thing is, when we say he can't slay the dragon by himself, that goes to the guy in the suit, too. Like, you're going to have to figure something out here. Like, this is where the coach matters. Look, you don't have a point guard who can get the ball into the offense within about 15 seconds. Like, without Kyrie, you can't do that. So how are you guys going to manage to score points? How are you going to do it? Like, if the team has to go big, and they've gone big, they went big in that game. If you're going to go big, the problem with going big is, how many times did you see LeBron James try to go to the post yesterday with Mozgov and Thompson on the floor? If the two of those guys are on the floor, he can't go to the post. Because where are they supposed to go? You don't have to guard them if they get outside of 6 feet from the basket. You just don't. So what's Blatt going to do? Like, this is when it falls on him. Eric Spoelstra, after the first year in Miami, felt like he did not do enough to help LeBron James. Because if you remember that first year in Miami, we did so much after Sports Centers, all this stuff about can LeBron make the big shot. And what you wound up happening so many times in those late game situations was Spo was just going 1-4 and saying go for what you know. It was either 1-4 with LeBron or 1-4 with Wade. That was it. You saw him make a quantum leap the next year with what he was doing offensively and throughout the rest of the time that LeBron spent there. But the coaching in Miami got more out of LeBron than you would have gotten otherwise. What's the coaching in Cleveland getting out of LeBron? Now, here's the problem. The problem is that the coach has basically become LeBron James. Like, we joke about this and him being the coach and general manager and everything else. But the problem with making LeBron the coach in that way is that's too much of a job. Like, if LeBron could really be the coach, they wouldn't hire a coach. So somebody's got to do something to help. Somebody has got to do something to help. And Blatt's got to be the first one. Now, does he have it in him? I don't know. Maybe we'll see. But I don't see how all eyes are not on him. If you think that LeBron can, without Kyrie Irving, lead the Cavaliers to victory, I don't see how you can believe that's possible without a significant plan. I don't see how you could think that's possible without having a real strategy going in to play against a superior team. Do you really think that you're just going to roll the ball out there to LeBron and he's going to pull it off like that? Like, the only chance you'd really have of LeBron being able to pull such a thing off, especially with the strategy that they were employing in the first game, which is basically just a bunch of pass the ball to Will. Like, you need the young, athletic LeBron. I mean, he's athletic now, but he's not that guy anymore. Like, this isn't the guy from the 48-point game against Detroit. Like, you're not going to get that. So what are these other cats going to give you, and what's Blatt going to do to help you get something out of those other dudes? It's on him. Because I feel like if they lose this second game, it is a wrap. They lose the second game, the only question is whether they're going to lose that series in Cleveland or they're going to lose that series in Oakland. Like, will there be confetti or not? That's it. Will they be dancing in your building or in their own? Because that's all I feel like the Cavs got left to play for at this point. Just try to win you one game so they're not out there pop-locking on your court.
And now, for Geico's edition of Stuff Found in Your Car, we go inside your side door pocket.
Hello, yes, the crumpled receipt with gum in it. From your anniversary dinner, you sprang for expensive wine, your server was Beth. That dinner was a couple $100. Money you could get back if you switched to Geico and saved hundreds of dollars on your car insurance. I bet you'd save that receipt. Frame it even. But really, where did I go wrong? Was it the corkage fee?
Geico. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more on car insurance. Visit geico.com today.
All guests join us on the Subway Fresh Take Hotline, including our next guest. He covers the Cleveland Cavaliers for the Northeast Ohio Media Group. He formerly covered the Portland Trail Blazers. His name is Chris B. Haynes. Chris, what's going on?
Bo, what's going on, my guy?
Dude, I'm doing all right. So you could be back in Portland covering LaMarcus Aldridge's house being sold, even though it's not his house. You know? And quietly, I don't think people know that this is one of the best stories. People try to figure out if LaMarcus Aldridge is going to stay in Portland, and the house he lives in is for sale, except he doesn't own it. So everybody flipped out because he's selling his house, except it's not his house to sell. But instead, you are at the NBA Finals, and everybody okay? They good? Y'all good? Y'all straight?
Man, there's some crazy stuff going on around here, man. These Cavs, man, they just falling down left and right, man. So it's going to be interesting to see what they can pull out from, here on out, man. But it's not looking good.
Well, what's the tenor surrounding the team without Kyrie Irving?
They're upright. They're cool. Last night, man, you can just tell. First of all, Kyrie came out talking about, hey, something feels different. If you got a player saying that, that was just a bad sign. And you just looked around the locker room and seen all the players; they were just dejected, heads were down. You could kind of feel the vibe, and that was before we knew the results. But today, I think they knew. I think when we spoke to them today after practice, the results they didn't come out yet, but I think the players knew because they were just talking about, hey, we got to whistle it out and we got to go out there and play and kind of move on for this. So far so good as of right now, but that's easier said than done.
Well, how hurt was he going into the game?
Now check this out, bro. He's been the Cavaliers said it's tendonitis. They've been saying it's tendonitis for the longest, the last month. Tendonitis. Kyrie has struggled to come to terms with it just being tendonitis. He was always fighting it. And, him and his representation, they went and got a second opinion, went to Florida to see a renowned knee specialist, and it was confirmed that at that time it was tendonitis in that left knee. So, then he goes out and fractures that same knee last night. The Cavaliers are saying the two injuries aren't related. So I don't know. I guess you can read between the lines on that one. I think there's going to be more to come from the situation because Kyrie, he wanted, he felt it was in his best interest to sit a couple of games. I'm not saying he wanted to sit out the entire playoffs, but I know for a fact he probably felt pressured to be out there, especially in the Eastern Conference Finals. That's why he came back in that Game 4. But, there's so many layers to this, Bo. There's definitely going to be some other things coming out about this.
All right, we're talking to Chris Haynes of the Northeast Ohio Media Group. And in your experience of covering NBA teams, how difficult is it for a player to sit when they're hurt knowing that the team depends on them?
Yeah, well, it depends on the situation because being that Kyrie situation, it was all about tendonitis. And players, they play off tendonitis. They play up with contusions. And then you got LeBron James saying, while Kyrie was hurt, while he was sitting out, LeBron was saying, hey, 50% Kyrie, 60% Kyrie is better on the court than us not having him. Him just being the presence. So that didn't help. That didn't help matters, that way either. So, I believe he was feeling pressure to get back. And like I said, it all depends on the team and the circumstances. Being that there's a lot of guys banged up in the playoffs right now, you don't have a lot of guys 100% at this point. Matter of fact, you don't have anybody 100% at this point. And with him sitting down and with the diagnosis being, so-called tendonitis, it just didn't look good for him sitting out those games, even though he felt all along there was something more serious than that.
Well, without him, presumably Matthew Dellavedova will be the point guard, but he had trouble getting the team into its offense and getting the ball to LeBron James. Is there anything that David Blatt can do to help him if he is the starter in Game 2?
There ain't much he can do. I mean, Dellavedova, he is what he is. He's a fine role player. He's somebody, when you put him around great players, he has a tendency to produce. But you have to remember, come on, this is Stephen Curry now. If he's guarding Steph one-on-one matched up against that guy, he's going to get exposed. That's just the simple fact. And he's not going to be able to initiate the offense. He's not somebody who's going to be a playmaker. He's a point guard, but he's not the point guard that you want setting the table. He's somebody that plays off of the ball. LeBron James is just going to have to take a bulk of the playmaking duties. LeBron James will have to probably cool it on those 38 shots and kind of spread those shots around, because I think that's exactly what the Golden State Warriors wanted him to do, to try to, produce on his own and kind of leave everybody else hanging. And I think that was the case in Game 1.
Well, how can he spread the shots around, though, if everybody's standing around and watching LeBron?
Well, he tried to be Michael Jordan-esque, and he has to be himself, meaning he's a dual threat. He's somebody that makes plays for himself and make plays for others and rebounding the basketball. And he was one-dimensional, and that's what they want to do. They want to make LeBron one-dimensional. Once you start doing that, you limit everybody else's quality looks, because LeBron James leads the league in isolation sets. So even though he's great at still coming through in those type of situations, you get a defense time to set. And while that type of play lasted about 3.5 quarters of LeBron James being able to, do his thing, it kind of faded away towards the end, especially you've seen in overtime, it wear it down. And like I said, that was Golden State's game plan. So in order for the Cavs, with Kyrie out, in order for the Cavs to be at their best behavior and to try to pull off a split at Oracle Arena, LeBron James is going to have to make sure he gets other guys involved. And that's on Blatt, too, for calling different plays and making sure he puts everybody in position to succeed.
Well, when LeBron was in Cleveland before, there was a lot of isolation sets because we blamed Mike Brown for that. He went to Miami to get away from that. They kind of redefined what offense could be in the NBA in a lot of ways. And now LeBron's back in Cleveland running isolation sets again. Like, how did that wind up being the case with offensive guru David Blatt at the helm?
Well, let's think about this, Bo. This is David Blatt. He is a rookie coach in the NBA, and so at certain levels, he still has to earn the respect of LeBron James. When LeBron went over to Miami, he had the Spoelstra. Him and Spoelstra had the risk, initially, but Spo always had the backing of Pat Riley, and so that was something that LeBron James had to respect. He wasn't going to be able to push Spo around and call timeouts and do some of the things that he does here in Cleveland. And so, it's just like he runs his own thing, man. He called a crucial timeout last game in game one. I mean, it was a good timeout. It was right on target. It was he saw that the team wasn't finishing and they weren't getting back on defense, and it was a perfect timeout to call. It's just like you would like to see the head coach do that, but he has the power to do so, man. When he came back to Cleveland, it was an unwritten rule that he's going to have some type of clout and some type of power within the organization, and he's utilizing that.
Is Blatt really okay with this?
Well, look. No, I don't think he's okay. But this what comes with it, man. This is what comes with coaching the best player in the game, especially your first year in the league. He has to, throughout the course of the season, Blatt was very careful not to criticize LeBron. Even if LeBron did something that was just crazy, had like a 10 turnover a game, David Blatt would never criticize him. Would never say a negative thing about him at all. And, that's just treading lightly. And I get that. I get that. David Blatt has to find his way within this league. He has to make sure he goes through the right steps because, let's face it, man, if this team is struggling or if LeBron is unhappy with the guy roaming the sidelines, he has enough power to make a change by going to management and say, hey, this is not working. And Blatt understands that and smarter than him to do so. So, this is a situation where it's worked so far. They've gotten to this point. But there's still a lot of work to do as far as their relationship goes.
Bomani.
A couple things I want to talk about. The first one, I guess, might stretch out a little too long for me to get to the second one. But Kent Babb of the Washington Post has written a book on Allen Iverson. It's called Not a Game. I have not read the entirety of the book. I'm about 50 pages into it. It's pretty interesting so far. It's also pretty well written so far. I like the way it's structured. After I get done with it, hopefully I'll be able to get Kent to come on the show to talk about it because the book is making a few waves. And when you got a book that comes out, you got to find a way to get people to read the book, right? So there'll always be some nugget or some morsel that comes out of a book like this that becomes the thing that we pull, and then you send to all the outlets, and it becomes the news. And it's like, in a new book by ... and then they'll tell you this. So the thing that's been pulled out of this book, as the you may not have known, is that Iverson's infamous practice rant. Babb writes in the book that Iverson was drunk. Okay. Now, Stephen A. Smith of ESPN, obviously, he goes back with Iverson basically to the very beginning. There's nobody, I think, working in sports media who knows Iverson as well as Stephen A. Smith does. Stephen A. Smith says that Iverson was not drunk. He said he called Iverson and that he and Iverson talked for 45 minutes, and Iverson said that he was not drunk. And Stephen A. is taking Iverson at his word. I don't know Allen Iverson well enough to know if he would lie to Stephen A. Smith about something like that. So I'm certainly not saying that Stephen A. Smith is wrong or that he's a liar. I'm just saying that I have no idea. The part that I feel like is getting missed, though, it doesn't really matter if Iverson was drunk during the practice speech. What has become clear is that Iverson was drunk a lot. I don't mean that he was drunk while playing or anything like that. I don't have anything for you on that. But in Kim Babb's book on Iverson, once again, which is called Not a Game, the first thing that he talks about in the book is Iverson needed to do something involving his wife in court. I can't remember the particulars, and I don't have the book in front of me right now. But long and the short is the setting is of a day where the next day Iverson needed to take a urine test where they were going to see if he had alcohol in his system. And knowing that he was going to have the test, he still wound up going out the day before and having 3 or 4 drinks or something like that, however many he wound up having. And I'm reading that part of the book, and I'm adding that to some things that I know and things that I've read and everything else. And, hey, man, I don't know if Allen Iverson is an alcoholic, but I know it sounds like it. Or at the very least, even if we're not using the term alcoholic, it sounds like he has a problem with drinking. And it doesn't sound like this problem with drinking just popped up. It sounds like it's been a problem. Maybe it hasn't. I could be wrong about that. However, I do find it interesting that as much as we have spent time talking about Allen Iverson as all these different things, as malcontent, as social icon, you can name it. You can make an argument that Iverson is a hero. You can make an argument that he's a legitimate pariah and should be treated as such. Like, you can do all of those things, but it doesn't seem like anybody spent much time talking about him drinking too much. Like, I know Stephen A. had brought it up at points, but while he was playing, you didn't hear about people talking about him and drinking. You don't hear it come up much at all about anybody and drinking. It just doesn't. And, that's kind of worrisome. And the reason I say it's worrisome is that you can buy alcohol in stores. Therefore, people change their calculus on risk and people change their morality based on the simple fact that you can buy alcohol in stores. Now, we have seen alcohol do destructive things to all kinds of people for a very long time. A lot of you have seen this up close and personal in ways that you wish you had not. And I wish you the best with that, to be perfectly honest. But, alcohol is a real thing, and it's a thing that we have a great tendency to underestimate. So I wonder, when we look at Iverson, we look at the way his career ended, we look at some of the things that went on during his career. I wonder, and I'll see how it goes as I get through the rest of this book, but you always wonder how much alcohol has an effect on a guy like that, or did, and how much people looked at it and didn't really do anything about it. And I don't know what they could have done about it, because Allen Iverson doesn't strike me as the sort of guy that's allowing people to tell him what to do. But, that leaves me with questions. Quick pivot to something that'll make you feel a little bit better. If you're a North Carolina fan, the beginning of this won't make you feel much better. But, they got their notice of allegations from the NCAA. The NCAA hit them with 5 level 1 infractions. I don't respect the NCAA's authority, so I don't know what the hell their little levels of infractions are, to be perfectly honest with you. But I do know that Roy Williams' name only came up one time in that whole report. One time. For better or worse. Maybe it should have come up more. I don't know. But it only came up one time in that report. And you know what I found to be funny about the fact that it only came up one time in that report? Today, UNC, or the word got out, it hasn't been announced, but UNC is working to sign Roy Williams to an extension. Do you realize how basically holding that NCAA stuff over Carolina's head kind of held them hostage in recruiting? Soon as they saw Roy's name was only in that bad boy one time, they're like, we are back in business. When the University of North Carolina loses a top recruit from Kinston, North Carolina to Duke, something has gone wrong. And when that dude tells Carolina basically, hey, man, we think the hammer's coming down on y'all, we need things to get fixed. Like, this isn't the program that Carolina had 5 years ago. They're not so happy with the state of affairs. And what happened with the academic scandal certainly had not helped. Man, I can't imagine what it was like when they looked through that and they looked at that notice allegations. They were like, Roy's name is only in here once. They're giving most of the blame to women's basketball. Man, I bet they were popping champagne. Like, most of the people they named in that report are actual, like, university employees, not athletic department employees, university employees. They're so glad. I said from the very beginning when that happened, they're like, well, they'll do whatever it takes to keep that thing away from men's basketball. They found out they only put Roy in that thing one time. They're like, open the doors back up, baby. Business is back.
The Right Time with Bomani Jones. Weeknights from 9 to 11 Eastern or on demand at ESPNradio.com.